everyone, and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast right here on Helix Cloud Games, where you join myself, Chris, alongside my two beautiful co-hosts, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie, joining me. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
And our chaotic neutral joined us once again, Rob. Welcome.
Hello.
For another fantastic show, gentlemen, of Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation podcast where we round up all of the PlayStation and cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Do give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing PlayStation content and other cloud gaming content we do here, like the Sounds of Stadia podcast, like our CloudQuest show, like our Let's Plays, first looks and live streams, and all of everything else. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you this week, talking about God of War Ragnarok, our PlayStation Plus games for July being announced, much more news on Skull and Bones, because it seems to be happening non-stop at the moment, Ghost of Tsushima sequel, and a lot more. But before we do dive into it, gentlemen, I'd like to know this week what we've been playing still. Richie, I'll throw it over to you first. What have you been playing?
I haven't actually been playing a lot recently. I've started back to the gym, so that I'm trying to stay really focused on getting there routinely. So I'm trying to avoid not playing any games before I go to the gym, so I don't sit down and go, I'll play for half an hour, then 3 hours later and go, I'm not going to the gym.
You're playing the game of life.
Yeah. I've been chipping away at a few career modes in FIFA, a bit of Pokemon Omega Ruby, but nothing major, just very like casual. I still can't decide what I want my next game to be, so I'll take suggestions in the comments.
Well, you've got some PlayStation Plus games to check out.
We do.
They're always free and always good to jump into.
I have a lot of PlayStation Plus games to check out.
That's true. The back catalogue gets even bigger. Rob, what have you been playing this last week?
I've been sucked so deeply into Fallout New Vegas.
Sorry.
Oh, you've gone.
My mind's terrible.
It's too early for that, Richie. It's too early for that kind of attitude. Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
How many hours would we say at this point?
At least 7 this week, which for me is like, considering like my schedule, what's been like this week is really high. I knew it was going to happen the moment I jumped into it, and it's fulfilled its prophecy. Really,
it's like comfort food. It's like, you know, you shouldn't have it, but then as soon as you start having it, it's like, I don't care about anything else. I'm just going to go.
It is like the issue with these types of RPG games where you're not playing a character in a story, you're playing a person, are the ones that really get me, because I just invest too much like emotionally into this character I've created, and it feels almost like a child, which I have to then take through.
It's like a Tamagotchi. You got to feed it and look after it and make sure it's there. I get that.
You're not playing a story, you're just existing in this other world as this other character. Like, I totally get that.
Yeah, that was without getting too far into it, that was the difference between Fallout 4, which people didn't particularly like too much, and then like the earlier Fallouts where it was just an anonymous character.
Well, I think the worst thing about Fallout 4 is just the Minutemen. They just consumed the game.
But there's a settlement that needs your help, Richie, and you have to answer the call. Okay.
The story in that game is so fantastic. You get out, okay, where's my child? Sod it, I'm just going to go hang out with these guys instead.
It is a very video game trope that I always chuckle to myself. Any story that has side quests to it, there's like something pressing and urgent happening where someone's life is at risk, a town is going to be exploded, there's going to be a massacre, and yet you then spend the next 3 hours going on a side quest looking for like a goat or whatever the scenario is. I'm thinking particularly of the Witcher one with the goat with the bell. Yeah. And it's like, that's a total irrelevant side quest, but could spend ages going to do it.
That's such a meme quest. They knew what they were doing with that one.
Yeah, and it is funny. Like, you wouldn't do that in real life. Someone calls you up, I need your help. There's an emergency, and you go, 2 minutes. I've got to drive 3 hours to another part of the country, collect this chest, bring it all the way back for this individual just to get some XP, and then I'll help with the potential earth-ending event that's going on.
Yeah, this sounds like a you question.
I need a bit more gold to upgrade my armor before I'm willing to help you out. Yes, I know the world's about to end, but I need this better armor because it looks better.
It's even what video games do quite a lot now when they go, you've reached like a no turning back point. So you have to completely reassess everything, like your inventory, where you're at, do you feel confident? Have you saved the game 3 times manually just to make sure you can actually come back to that point if you want to? and then finally embrace the final showdown, whatever it may be.
What happens if when I roll credits, do I get to jump straight back into the world before that point? Like, I can go back and do all my side quests.
Like, can I come back after that point? Because I don't want that risk of potentially another 20, 30 hours to get back to that same place.
Drop another save just in case.
Yeah, what a crazy thing to happen with only in video games, folks. Only in video games. Another interesting one before we get into the thick of the show, I wanted to talk to you two about, because I've noticed it this week and I thought it was really interesting. It's about Grand Theft Auto. So the remastered ones, the next gen version ones are out now. I actually bought Grand Theft Auto 5 again for the next gen version when before it launched. I think it was on a pre-order for like £8, £9 something. And I told myself, I haven't played it in years, but the allure of going back into Grand Theft Auto again, I was like, it's less than a tenner. I'll buy it. Haven't touched it yet. I've installed it. It's there. I haven't touched it yet. And I noticed this week there was people talking about how long this game's been out. And we know it's got loads of crap on the internet for... It came out on PlayStation 3. Like, I remember playing it on PlayStation 3 and talking with my friends about it, thinking how awesome it was. And here we are like a decade later, and it's still currently like present. One of the things that kind of blew my mind a little bit, it's one of those time frame things. So if you think back to the first 3D one, you two all remember Grand Theft Auto 3, right? Just PS2, walk around, silent protagonist in
very great
Liberty City, that kind of thing. 8-ball and such. That came out in 2001, right? Think back to that many years ago, lads. 2001. It was contemporary for the time, so it was based in 2001. Then we got Vice City, which obviously took us back to 1986. That was based in the 80s, right? And like I remember playing that thinking, this is from a totally different era, like the music, the theme, the neon lights, Miami Vice style. And it felt like an eternity ago, right, when you played Vice City, because it was in the past to us as kids. San Andreas then came out, and that was based in 2004. So just to give you some more dates on that. So we've got 2001, then we went back in time to 86, and then we had our contemporary time again in 2004. The time frame, gentlemen, between Vice City and GTA 3 was 15 years. So when we were playing GTA 3 in 2001 and then Vice City, we were looking back in time 15 years.
Yeah.
Today's date in 2022 from San Andreas, the last PS2 release, was 18 years ago. So more time has lapsed between our real present time now and San Andreas timeline than when we played Vice City and how old we were then. Which made me just go, fuck, really. I'm old. Because Vice City felt like the 80s was so long ago.
Yeah.
And yet now San Andreas is so long ago, but it doesn't feel like it. But it's actually longer by a few years. Which made me just go, damn, time's crazy.
I know.
And it's still terrifying. We all still have Grand Theft Auto 5, which will keep going for another 18 years, no doubt, beyond all this. But yeah, it was one of those just moments of realization where I was like, damn, I'm either really old or time is going really, really fast right now. But speaking of time going fast, gentlemen, let's get into the main thick of the show. But before we do, let's congratulate and thank our Helix heroes out there, you wonderful folks who support the show that little bit extra, just like you can by clicking join below on the YouTube video. From as little as 99 pence, you support us three gentlemen, create and bring you better content every single week, just like all of our shows. And not only that, you get our episode of CloudQuest up to 6 days early. Richie, remind the lovely people out there what we discussed on this week's episode of CloudQuest that is available now to our Helix heroes.
So we were talking about Tencent and their move into cloud gaming and what that could mean for the West, because it's already out in China.
That was the crazy thing. We did some research. Yeah. Actual research for the show for a change.
Yeah, we did.
And
we actually do that a lot for CloudQuest.
We have to sometimes, but yes, Tencent, they have cloud gaming. I know we do a Stadia podcast as well, and a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences. But them breaking into the West, considering they have shares in almost any company you can imagine, you name it, they've got shares in it somewhere, and they're slowly building up this like stealth network behind the scenes. We go into all that, of course. It is available on Friday on free feeds, podcast services, etc. However, if you want it early, if you want to support us a little bit more, 99p, click join below. You can get that access right now, along with stickers, perks, and other promo things. Right, gentlemen, busy show, as I said, so let's not delay any further. Richie, if you could introduce us to
the properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka the news.
Plenty of news this week. Starting with, of course, it's a new month, folks. This show goes live on the 5th of July, so I guess happy Independence Day to our traitorous American friends out there who enjoyed Monday's celebrations. New month, kicking off with new games, and we start with probably the big one, I would say. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is one of your PlayStation Plus games for the month, available on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. An all-new Crash adventure awaits. Dr. Neo, Cortex, and Entropy are back at it again, launching an all-out assault on not just the universe, but the entire multiverse. Wield 4 powerful guardians of space and time that give Crash and Coco the power to bend rules of reality and conquer the dangerous obstacles in new and exciting ways. Gentlemen, I'm a huge Crash Bandicoot fan. Rob, I'll pass it over to you. What's your history with the marsupial in the jorts?
So, I think Crash was one of the first games I played when I got the PlayStation 1. I think it was kind of bundled in with the deal like my parents got me. And I always remember it being kind of a little bit too hard for how old I was at the time. But as I kind of like developed my, I guess like hand-eye coordination on Crash, and then I just played the pants off it for basically the rest of my kind of childhood. So I was like super excited when the remastered trilogy came out, and I didn't get a chance to play 4 when it released. So the fact that it's now on PlayStation Plus is just a really easy title for me to jump into. So yeah, that's definitely on my list to play.
Yeah, absolute bonus. And it did just have, well, not recently, it had its PlayStation 5 next gen kind of reversion made as well, so it looks like you get both versions to choose from depending on your console preference. Richie, how about you? What's your history with Crash?
I never owned a PS1. My first PlayStation was actually a PS2. But I had played a lot of Crash, probably around your houses and around other family members and stuff. But I've always liked Crash, but I've never loved Crash. So when Crash 4 came out, I know how excited you were. I was like, I'll wait for it to come on sale, or I'll wait for it to be a PS Plus game, because it feels like almost an inevitable one with Crash's links to the PlayStation, even though it's technically owned by Microsoft nowadays.
Yeah, true. It might be the last Crash game we get on PlayStation. I hope not, because that would be like a horrible twist of fate if he was their mascot for a decade plus, and then by circumstances and buyouts, he's now Xbox exclusive, which it would pain me a little bit.
Yeah, Crash literally was developed to be the answer to Mario and Sonic for PlayStation. Is now technically an Xbox mascot.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it because I know it's a good game.
It is.
So yeah,
it's a fantastic game. I haven't actually finished
maybe this is the
one.
game. I'm in need of a new game. Maybe this is it. Maybe this will be the game that clicks for me at the moment. Maybe this is what I need.
Yeah, because it's terrific. Because as Rob alluded to, we got the Insane Trilogy, which was the remaster of the original 3. I absolutely adore them games. Like, they're fantastic. They're very much my, like you were saying, Rob, my childhood. Like, that was one of the first like pack-in PlayStation games I got as a child. Probably the same time frame, like probably 94, 95, I think it came out. So hand-eye coordination and understanding of what I was doing, very limited. But I think those first maybe 3 to 4 levels, which I could cope with, I must have played 1,000, 2,000 times over as a kid. Because when you had infinite time, you just did it. When you died, you started again. That's all you did all afternoon.
Yeah, and it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. You had nothing to do, no responsibilities, simpler times. And yeah, when the Insane Trilogy came out, I was absolutely over the moon. And then we got the Crash Team Racing remaster as well, which was like, that's amazing. Best kart racer, hands down, right, Richie?
No, it's not. It's not. Mario Kart beats it.
There is an episode of me and Richie arguing about, was it the best kart racer or the best mascot of all time?
Best kart racer.
Best kart racer.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I remember that.
It's not even Helix Cloud Games content.
It's not. I do have the video file though, which we could publish to members.
Game and Source Network.
It is, yeah. Go check Game and Source Network out. Absolutely amazing folks over there. And thrilled to bits with that one. And then after that, my kind of hopes and dreams were on a Crash Bash remake, which was the kind of Mario Party smaller game one.
Yeah, right.
And that's still one that I think is on the horizon, maybe like an expanded version of it. But then we got Crash 4 out of absolutely nowhere. Game's fantastic. You can float to the ceiling. You can slow down time. It basically brings loads of like elemental things into it, but gorgeous graphics, beautiful gameplay, and some fantastic puzzle solving elements. But that game is tough, like the time trials. And so I know if when Jeff's back on the show, he'll probably allude to the Platinum Trophy, and that is one that I gave up on very early because of how hard the time trials are. They are like, you're talking fractional seconds. If you ruin it, you've got to start the whole thing again. So it's a speedrunner's delight, I'm sure. but it's so hard, but enjoyable at the same time. So I'm excited to hear what your two takes on it are.
Now I'm thinking about it. Crash, this could be a big moment for Crash going forward, because things like Mario Party keeps coming back every now and again from Nintendo. Mario Kart, obviously, everything Mario's doing, Crash can effectively be an equivalent. But if Microsoft are willing to keep Crash cross-platform, it could take up that same sort of like mind share that where Mario does, but with Mario being locked on Nintendo's platforms, for everyone who doesn't own a Switch, you just get Crash Bash or Crash Team Racing or the main line Crash games.
Yeah.
They could kind of do the same thing. And even like Spyro's Activision as well, I believe.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's part of the
So you could just like have that for things like Crash Bash or Crash Team Racing. You could work Spyro characters in there as well.
Yeah, it's
Banjo characters.
Yeah, the potential's huge. I'm actually waiting for the moment. I've always thought, even since being a child growing up, Crash, I'm waiting for that like Mario, like 3D Mario breakout, because it's always been very linear start to end, and that's very much what defines the style of gameplay. But because he's such a 3D mascot carrier, just like Sonic is and Mario is, he could easily have like, I want to explore that whole island in 3D and then maybe go into individual levels, and it's just not happened yet.
You want them to go the way Mario is, where there's a couple of different like clear verticals in what is the mainline Mario game. But here's an idea. What about a Crash fighting game? You take all like the Rare's back catalogue of characters, because Microsoft own them. You take all of like Activision's backlog of mascot characters, and you make a Smash clone.
Oh, like totally.
I know PlayStation All-Stars tried to do that in the past, but I don't think at the time PlayStation necessarily had that critical mass of characters and IP that it would do now.
Yeah,
especially under Microsoft at the moment.
PlayStation Battle Royale was, for all its sins, I enjoyed it. However, you're completely right. The biggest sin it did was it didn't get the license for Crash and Spyro. So for a PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale, it did not have arguably the two biggest mascots. And as much as I like Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal and Fat Princess, they're not quite on the same level as Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. Nathan Drake,
Crash and Spyro should have been day one, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like Sly Cooper and stuff are in there. We'll talk about him later on. But you're right, Richie. Their roster of like kind of go-to characters has gotten bigger and bigger to a point where they probably could do it better now. Like get Sackboy in there. Again, you've got the Astrobot, little robot fellas from those games.
Well, that would have to be Microsoft and Sony working together on it. Well, I'm thinking taking this from a Microsoft perspective, because Microsoft own Crash, they own Spyro, they own Banjo.
Yeah, can do their own now. That's it. Get Master Chief in there. Get Gears of War people in there. You could do it. They're the only ones who are yet to do it. Nintendo have had a crack at. Well, Nintendo literally created it. Sony have had a crack at it. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some kind of crossover agreement. Because like, if anyone's going to do it, it's probably Nintendo with Smash. But again, then everything's beholden to the Switch. Whereas Microsoft and PlayStation could play a bit more fast and loose with sharing everything.
The future of Smash at the moment is quite a bit nebulous, because Ultimate is potentially the last Smash. At least probably for a long time.
Well, it won't be the last one.
I don't know. I could see, getting off tangent here, I could see Smash Ultimate just being kept getting ported forward.
I mean, in an ever-present world, it could be, but it depends how sales go. But
Shall we get back on topic?
Yeah, switch back to it. Your pro games for July, ladies and gentlemen. There's not just one. There is another one following up. The second title is, in fact, from the makers of Until Dawn, recently released The Quarry, the Dark Pictures anthology, one of 8 titles still set to be released. I think they're only up to 4 still. Man of Medan, which was their first one. It's a branching cinematic horror game where 5 friends set sail on holiday at a diving trip that soon changed into something more sinister. All playable characters can live or die, with the choices you make deciding their fate. Experience your terrifying story alone, with a friend online, or go for safety numbers with up to 5 players offline as you explore the deep underwater world and horror. Now, I'm a big fan of Until Dawn. I haven't checked out The Quarry yet. The Quarry, of course, being a Stadia exclusive initially, Richie, which we talked at length on our other podcast, the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Check it out right now. And it's one of those odd things where they made a separate publishing agreement with Bandai Namco, I believe it was, to bring out these 8 titles and to commit to 8 horror titles in almost like a series with different characters and different settings every time. Seemed like a crazy task, but they're halfway through it now, and Man of Medan is one of the more better received ones. Pro game. PlayStation Plus game for July. Get my platforms crossed over there. And where do you guys sit on this one? I know, Richie, we've played Until Dawn, so I'll pass it over to you. Where are you at now with these horror Telltale-esque games from Supermassive?
The Dark Pictures Anthology is a series that I always forget exists. They just seem to come and go and go, oh, there's a new game. I don't know what it is about them. They has absolutely no mindshare for me at all. I just genuinely just forget that they exist. But there's literally been one every year since 2019.
Yeah, they've done actually well to hit the timelines to get them out.
Yeah, so I don't know. I have really no idea how well this game's reviewed or anything, because it just seems to just come and go in my mind, just in one ear out the other, which is probably a bit unfair. Because again, Until Dawn was a really good game. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed playing. I think it's a game that it's better played with other people.
Yeah, I think
we played it in a very social. We played in a very social setting around your house before, and that's the only time I've really played into it. I've never jumped into it myself.
Yeah, you got everyone killed.
But that's how I play horror games anyway, because I'm
everyone killed.
Yeah, and everyone killed. Yeah.
Yeah, we did so well for like 4 or 5 hours.
Everyone
kept everyone alive. Hand the controller to Richie. He's got one option: go left, go right, and he picks the one that gets him immediately massacred by like a Wendigo character. It was definitely a only could happen to Richie moment, which did make us laugh. These games in a weird way, they almost suffer from what I hated about the Telltale games, and that's why I always relate back to them. It's very choice driven. It's all horror focused, but the episodic nature, telling me it's 1 of 8 in a series, even though they're not really connected from what I've gathered. It almost does something subconscious to me where I'm thinking, well, I'll just wait till the whole collection's out. I'm in no rush. Like, I'll wait till you can buy an entire compendium of it, the full Dark Pictures anthology, and I'll just enjoy it then.
My thing is, if they're not connected, why are you releasing this as a part of a single series? Why not just bring out the game, let it stand on its own legs?
I mean,
it seems because they're made by the same developer, so like, there's not going to be no like. Effectively, if loads of games brought out by a single developer, could be considered to be an anthology anyway. Mm-hmm. It just seems
because each of them has a different setting and a place. But having not played them, I'm guessing they must be loosely connected in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, why would it be an anthology, or is it just like a collection of supermassive hits, kind of thing?
I think it's more the theme of the game, isn't it?
All the games are linked through the curator, a character present in each installment who introduces each individual story and occasionally converses with the player in his mysterious and strange place called the Repository.
Right. Okay. So he's like the architect in the Matrix, who just
that's reading from the wiki page and the Dark Pictures anthology. But that doesn't really. It sounds like he's almost just serving as a narrator more than anything else. Which...
I think it's trying to do like a Tales of the Crypt style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Twilight Zone. Every week's a different story, and you got to go into it. I mean, unless there's an epic twist on the last episode where you're the curator or he's been the one the whole time behind it all, like something like that. But then you've got to wait 5-6 years to get to that twist. So is it worth it, the payoff in the end? We'll have to see. But yeah, I know some of them do quite well when they come out and they're received like okay. And again, Supermassive just put The Quarry out like separate to this, which is again testament to how quick they're working. And they always look graphically beautiful. Like, you can't deny like the motion capture they do and the artwork's fantastic. It's just
it's a decent get for Plus.
It is.
I'm doing it now. Yeah.
It'd be an interesting cadence if we kind of saw one of these released every few months. So you're almost like just going to get the whole anthology if you're patient enough to it. Like, if in 4 months' time we get the next entry and then the next one, that could be quite a nice cadence to lead into whatever the following title is. I think they all got leaked, actually. Now I'm saying it out loud. I'm pretty sure the whole list of logos got leaked online. So we actually know the names of all 8 titles because the artwork was published. So we do actually know, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So we'll move on to the next title because we've got 3 games to talk about this week for your July Plus games. Third up is Arcadegeddon. So if anyone's not familiar with Arcadegeddon, again, it's the PS4/PS5 version you will get. Gilly, the owner of a local arcade, is trying to save his business from a faceless mega corporation, Funco, and what better way to stick it to the man than with a brand new spanking new super game. Unfortunately, the corporation gets wind of Gilly's plan and launches a cyber attack, injecting a virus into the game. Now it's up to you to rise up and save both the game and the last remaining local arcade is an ever-growing, ever-evolving co-op multiplayer shooter, offering a mix of PvE and PvP gameplay. You and up to 3 friends online explore multiple biomes, completing mini-games, find hidden chests, and battle a crazy cast of enemies and bosses. Now, this is very much the one for the masses arcade game by nature and name, I guess. Guys, this one does nothing for me, so Rob, I'll throw it over to you to say, looking at the video footage and the breakdown, where does this sit on your radar?
To me, this is like the perfect kind of extra game on a subscription game service, where it's kind of like you get like your kind of bigger titles, like 1 or 2, and then there's this other title which you would never ever spend money on its own, I don't think. But it does kind of. I'll probably dip in. I'll give it a quick click around, but if nothing else, it might just help like games like this and the studios behind them kind of amplify themselves a bit. And if that's all it does, that's fine by me.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's a good point.
sure I agree there. They've looking at the art style. They clearly went for that full-on Fortnite, Overwatch, overly saturated. It's clearly aimed at a younger audience than us. So I don't think it's probably struggling for sales or recognition. I hate the art style. I'm going to be honest. It's the style. It's an art style that since Fortnite it's just been creepy. You know how Breath of the Wild, everyone started following that art style. Like Fortnite, there's games that do the same with Fortnite. I just think it looks ugly personally, but it's clearly not for me. This game at all. Like it's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, I think it's a hard pass for me for similar reasons, art style wise, and playing it. But I think Rob, you're on something like good there, because we've seen with games going straight to PlayStation Plus that require kind of online multiplayer. You sometimes do see them explode. We saw it with Fall Guys, was PlayStation Plus when that launched. We saw it with Rocket League as well, and both of them just got amplified to the max because of the free marketing they essentially got by being free to 60 plus million PlayStation Plus subscribers. And yeah, you're right, people will jump in and check Crash Bandicoot out, single player. They'll jump in and check out Dark Pictures Anthology, no doubt. And then you're right, there's this kind of third entry game which doesn't take any real thought process. You just jump in and, by the looks of it, start shooting shit up in an arcade. Yeah.
Interesting thing about this game is it's technically will be released straight onto PlayStation Plus, but has been in early access for over a year.
Okay, so they've been working on it. The art style, the image they have on the blog post, actually, it reminds me of, if you guys can remember the cartoon when we were kids about the cells going inside the human body, and it's Osmosis Jones, and he literally, the characters, because they're blue, it looks like was he a white blood cell or something, and I think his friend partner was like a paracetamol capsule or something like that. And he used to fight off viruses inside the human body. Look it up. Osmosis Jones, I think it was called. I think it was Chris Rock, actually, who did the voice for the main guy. But that's literally what these look like and remind me of. And they don't have any noses, either. Which is kind of weird. Like Voldemort style.
It's like a style recently, though. Like, things have no noses, and it's like...
Things have no noses. Fine. Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch Stranger Things. But that is your third and final July PlayStation Plus game announced. Now, we should point out as well, the new PlayStation Plus premium lineup. There's another announcement that's due to come in the middle of the month, or am I being crazy? I feel like they announced as part of these collections now there would be a refresh halfway through the month with more games. Is that just me being crazy?
I think that's just them adding to the PlayStation Plus library in general. Like, I wouldn't expect it to be because at the moment, if with the Essential, this is what you get your monthly games that we've just covered. With the other two tiers, the premium and is it Deluxe? I need to remember the names of these tiers. The mid tier, whatever the mid tier is, you have a bit more of a back catalogue. So yeah, extra. I could see this being something, maybe a new PS3 game that's come across, or PS4 game, maybe something in the cloud.
Yeah, it's quite messy, really, isn't it? With all these subscription ones. Like I just went all out for the top one because I'm not going to mess around with reading what all they are. I'm just gonna, if I go for the top one, I'm getting everything right.
The difference is just cloud accesses on the premium. That's pretty much it.
Oh well, that's quite good for us here on the channel anyway. Yeah. But yeah, so 3 games for this month. We'll see if we get another update mid-month, and we'll bring it to you, of course, right here on Talking the PS. But we'll move on to our next story of the week. We've had some rumours and leaks, gentlemen, that EA is set to reveal the new Skate information Need for Speed, and FIFA games some point next month. So now Summer Games Fest is out the way, and there is no E3 this year. Now things seem to be hotting up with EA and Ubisoft as well, because Ubisoft have announced they are going to be at Gamescom this year. So I think last week we actually discussed on the show about Sony pulling out of Gamescom. Well, good thing Ubisoft have jumped in to cover them. And by the looks of it, EA have got some stuff up their sleeve too. The publisher slated earlier in the year that it would forego its annual EA Play Live showcase, which naturally would have been at E3, and instead they're going to announce the games if and when the timing is right. And reported by Tom Henderson, it seems like EA is gearing up for a formal announcement in the next couple of weeks. So Skate, Need for Speed, and FIFA are the ones we're hearing whispers about and rumours about already. I think FIFA's a shoo-in, right, Richie? It's literally comes out every, I think, end of September usually.
Yeah, it's a FIFA announcement isn't that interesting because you know it's coming. It's going to come every year. It's just what are the differences this year, and they're usually relatively minor, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
so we'll get that, no doubt. The big one is, I guess, Need for Speed. That's kind of, it's been dormant for a little while. We know Criterion, who usually work on the titles, they were pulled off Need for Speed project to help work and fix Battlefield 2042 last November time, when that absolute shit hit the fan with that, and it's gone nowhere since. And it looks like they've been switched back. Yeah, no one wants that. And it looks now like they're pivoting back around to Need for Speed. Rob, I know you're a Need for Speed guy from back in the day. What was the last one you checked out?
I think I played the self-titled Need for Speed kind of. It was almost like a reboot.
Live action.
But the last one I was emotionally invested in would have been Underground 2, which was, I think, the universe, the peak of the series you could have had. But I think you talked about a few weeks ago, kind of racing games just don't do anything for me as I've got older. I used to love them when I was kind of a teenager and kind of late kind of teens and things like that. But there's something about being able to drive in real life that just kind of wipes off the appeal for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
you're completely
it goes
right.
the same for arcade or sim as well. There's no type of racing game I enjoy at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of sit in that. I enjoy what I play of them, but I never feel that investment that you were saying. But yeah, back in the day, Need for Speed Underground 2, when you're literally planning for the car you're going to get as soon as you turn 18, get your license, pass your test, it's like, right, I am going to get neon lights, a Vauxhall Corsa, whatever shitty hatchback I can afford. I want to do a paint job, and it's like, and you don't have the money to do any of that, so the dreams are very quickly crushed. But yeah, that was definitely a time. I think I enjoyed Most Wanted. That was a good one. But yeah, I kind of fell off of them, and I didn't play the reboot. I didn't play Need for Speed Heat, and we've had Burnout Paradise come back recently. So this one apparently is titled Need for Speed Unbound, from what we're hearing in these rumours. It's going to adopt a mixed visual style between realistic cars environments and stylized elements. So Richie, that sounds like we're getting a lot of that splash of bright, vibrant colour that you love so much in every game that there is out nowadays. It's going to have a Burnout Paradise style online multiplayer as well. So it sounds like they're going to mix it up from it being its traditional, just standard street racing. You're going to be able to meet up with other drivers in an open world and initiate races. So it sounds like some kind of amalgamation between Need for Speed, bit of Burnout in there, but with the crew or world overlay maybe. Does that do anything for you? It
sounds like me personally, I'm even less interested in racing games than you two. I've never been a big racing game fan. Even as a teenager, I never really dreamed of kitting out my car or anything. It's just never done anything for me. I enjoy racing games. We played Wreckfest on stream last week. For a couple of hours, I enjoyed playing with the community. And then I won't touch that game now until we probably next do a stream on it in about 6 months or something. So it doesn't really matter to me what they do with this game. They'd have to do something incredibly special for me to even give it half a glance, because I'm just not into that style of game. It's not for me at all.
So what about switching over then? What about Skate? Because that's one that we discussed on I think last week's show or the week before. I can't remember. They all blur into one at one point. To get ahead of, I guess, the rumours came out of the release and announcements, and then EA actually released a pre-alpha footage of Skate. The kind of Skate 4 / reboot, whatever they're going to call it eventually. We had a little chuckle about it before we went live recording the show today. Of this game's not quite due out this year, I would guesstimate on this one.
God, I hope not, based on the footage. But
I don't know. That might be the aspect they're going for.
it's a pre-rendered art style.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, looking at the track record of releases and like the bug fixing on kind of like this like kind of last run of big releases, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out in like 3 months, to be honest.
Yeah, we're working on a patch update. Don't worry. It's like what's in
day
it?
One patch is like they're on patch 19 gig.
Yeah,
it sounds about right. And it comes after a long week, of course, of the games industry kind of pushing back on consumers a little bit and saying stop pestering them for information and dates. Like it'll be ready when it's ready, kind of thing. And this game very much isn't ready right now. We can see from that, and in a way, I think Richie, you said it pre-show that it's actually almost in a way it's nipping it in the bud, and by just showing where they're at, it's a good way of kind of curbing any enthusiasm for this coming out anytime soon, because the game is so in such early stages. It almost like puts you off, saying like, oh well, yeah, okay, it's not ready. I can actually see that right now.
Yeah, that's it. When we're talking before shows, like we're kind of asking, why would they even release this footage? And the only reason I can really think of is to just kind of go, hey guys, we are working on this, but look, this is what we've got now. It's going to be a while, so just go do something else.
Go do something else.
I think the issue is, like, if there's ever silence in like a game development cycle, there's always kind of some journalist who's wanting to make a name for himself, and he's like wanting to kind of progress himself, who can just jumps in to fill this silence with absolute garbage, and then it doesn't take much to kind of get momentum, and then suddenly it's
you start getting journalists reporting on what other journalists are saying rather than actually going to source.
There is.
Yeah, I think with Skate as well, especially, Skate 4 has been in demand since Skate 3 came out, which is quite a while ago now. So I think, and when they finally announced that they're working on it, I think that was probably them going, oh yeah, guys, we're working on it. And everyone's going, oh my god, it's going to come soon. It's like, no. This is them going, no, it's not coming soon. We're working on it. We haven't been working on it for as long as you think. This isn't like we've been keeping our cards close to our chest till we're ready to announce it. This is, we're sick of you asking for it, so we're just letting you know we are working on it. But now we're going to go back to work, and you'll get it when you get it.
In terms of the actual game, I'm super excited for it.
I've never played a Skate game, so I am excited for it.
Yeah, like I kind of played all the Tony Hawks, the 2 recent remakes. I've even played Skater XL, which is kind of like the only title in that genre at the moment. But it's a very different game from kind of your Tony Hawks and your Skates. It's very sim-like, and it's
kind of like the Gran Turismo to Need for Speed.
Yeah, like equivalent. To play it effectively, you need to know on a rudimentary level how to do certain tricks in real life to kind of translate it into the game almost. So obviously Skate definitely has much higher like mass appeal.
Although most of this trailer is kind of just like mesh art and just clearly this is just basic. We're just testing out stuff in the engine. There is some footage at the end where it does seem to be like the actual render style, and there's elements of it that look absolutely. The world looks absolutely stunning. Character models, I think, need a bit work. They're looking very Ubisoft-esque, when like generic. With Ubisoft games, they'll put all this effort into the environment, and their characters just look flat and lifeless.
Yeah, I do get that.
But again, this is pre-alpha footage, so that's fine.
All the pre's.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So obviously, we reported on last week's show that Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 Pro Skater remake remaster were canned when Activision just shuttered the studio and moved them over to Diablo support with Blizzard. This kind of creates another window for these, and I hope it doesn't force the devs to try and rush themselves to get it out in the lack of like the window being the only ones there. Could you see a world where, because of that cancellation, this gets like a little mini relaunch called Tony Hawk's Skate? Could you imagine?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think
I don't
that
think
would
so
just
either.
be
I'm
confusing.
just playing, devil's advocate.
Like, the interesting thing about the skateboarding world, it goes in like huge kind of cycles, and those cycles are fairly kind of regular in terms of like popularity, and then it just drops off a cliff. And if anybody's watched the kind of the HBO documentary on Tony Hawk, it came, I don't know when it came out, but I just watched it recently. You like maybe it's the start of kind of like the skateboarding phase coming back in again. Because that documentary is brilliant. He tries to like recreate the 900 he did when he was young, and like the footage of him doing it when he's like this kind of relatively old man is like heartbreaking.
Oh, I think I know the one you mean. I think I saw it, and he was kind of talking like going, "Look, this is my last time to even really attempt to pull this off, because after this point, I'm just not physically going to be able to do it anymore. I'm getting too
really
old
good.
for this." So
yeah,
it was almost like
kind of
I want to hit this one last time sort of situation.
Yeah, and like
he does it right.
When he gets it, he's like, yeah, he does, and it's like, oh, it's
go on, Tony.
It's like so tense watching him do it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, you get, you're completely right. The skateboarding kind of craze, it doesn't kind of hang around. It very much comes in fashion and then disappears completely.
There's always that under level of people involved in the community. There is a persistent community there, but it does have these spikes.
Yeah, crazy. It's like scooters. I remember the scooter phase first time round, and then now it's there again. The kids are on scooters all over the place. But we digress a little bit. So Skate will no doubt see some more actual gameplay footage in the years and months to come. Just like while we patiently wait on other titles, there's been a bit of news this week, rumours going around about a God of War showcase reveal for Ragnarok. Of course, the sequel follow-up to 2018's fantastic Game of the Year winning God of War from Sony Santa Monica. And I think the reason this one's got so much limelight on it and pressure is because they said it was coming last year, then it got delayed till this year. So they've had an entire 12 months additional to work on it from when they were originally going to release. And they've been very silent on it to a point, gentlemen, where it's due out this year. And we're in July now, and we don't have a concrete date. We haven't seen any real gameplay beyond what they showed at last year's announcement event. And I don't know if people are just getting cold feet, but I definitely don't think it's helped by all these journalists suggesting every other week and month there's something coming the end of this month. It's still on for this year. Is it cancelled for this year? I've heard it's been pushed back. And it's just creating this kind of torrent of vitriol that's going around in the journalist world of just rumours and speculation about God of War. And I think because it is such a highly anticipated game, it's turning sour out there, as the internet usually can take things. Richie, we'll start with you on this one. God of War Ragnarok, do you think it's still coming this year?
Well, Cory Barlog has literally said it's not delayed. So yes, I think it's coming. But my biggest takeaway from this is, if you're these people tweeting at the developers, harassing them, trying to get information, just back the hell off. Like, all you're doing is you're putting unnecessary levels of stress on the developers. You make them trying to force decisions to hit arbitrary deadlines, and you might end up with a worse experience because of it. Give them the time and space to make the game they want to make without overstressing the hell out of them. Because imagine doing if you're going into work and you're stressed out and you've got to go through the quality assurance to go through all the bug fixes and stuff, you might just miss things because you're stressed. Where if you're going into work happy and relaxed, you're probably going to do a better job. And that's what I want from my game developers. I want them to enjoy their jobs so I get a better product. So just don't be a twat, basically.
That's a good rule to live by.
Be patient. They'll announce a release date when they know when they're ready to announce a release date. I really want this game myself. But if I get this game in 2025... that's so be it.
People get weird on the internet. I know they give them loads of crap for the boat animations looking the same as the last game, and I don't know if it's just I'm a bit more mature and grown up now in my 30s than I was when I was a kid playing games. But I just look at a boat animation and think, well, how many more different ways can you really get out of a boat and get into a boat? It doesn't bother me at all. And why would they have to go back in and redo the whole thing? It makes no sense.
It's still Kratos in a boat.
Yeah.
And realistically,
if the boat animation was good, then it's good, right? You don't
Yeah. Why mess with
much.
it? Yeah, it's surely there's bigger things that they could be tackling than the boat animation, and that might even just be in a placeholder. We'll come back to this later if we have chance.
Yeah.
All I can think of is a developer wakes up in the morning, kind of checks his Twitter feed, sees loads of people just hurling questions veiled in abuse at him. He gets his coffee and he drives into work, and then he gets the same type of pressure and abuse from some project manager from the publisher, and it's give him a break, guys. Just give him
the publisher in this case is Sony, and they seem to be pretty chill with their developers taking their time and bring games when they're ready.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Corey Barlog, who was the director lead on the 2018 version, who got loads of praise for and stuff. He's stepped back from this one now. He's still obviously at Santa Monica. He's got an important role, but he's working on a different project, and there's a new director came in for this one. But Corey's always been quite vocal on Twitter and social media. He did all around, so like the interviews and all the spoiler casts when the original one came out. So he's very much the focal visual guy you see front and center representing this kind of brand and this company at the moment. And he tweeted out saying, like, "Dear all, if it were up to me, I would share all the information when I know about it, but it's not up to me, so please be patient. I promise things will be shared at the earliest possible moment they can be. We make games for you, we get to make games because of you." Then a love heart emoji. So it's like, the guy can't be any more like direct up front saying, look, there's a plan, and you have to be beholden to that, right? They might have some like epic showcase to reveal later on this week or this month, but just why pester them
I
about
fully
it?
expect at some point we'll hear about there's a PlayStation showcase coming. It will be God of War.
Yeah, like just a standalone state of play for one title.
Yeah, that's when we'll get more details about the game, the setting. You'll get the release date. They're going to go when Sony and Sony Santa Monica are ready. They will go hard on the marketing on this.
Oh yeah, it's
because
they
know
everywhere.
like God of War 2018 is arguably one of the best games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they have in this, and when they're ready to show it, they will show it.
Yeah,
So just be patient.
absolutely. One of my favourite games of all time as well. And the state of
Have
plays,
a cup of tea, go for a walk, just relax.
have a cup of
fine.
tea. And the state of players do a great job at kind of showcasing the gameplay, the story, where we're at, and really giving you a deep dive into what to expect from it. And I remember the Ghost of Tsushima one. I knew the game looked great. I knew it was from Sucker Punch, who I like. I've enjoyed the last games. But I didn't really know much about it. And after watching the 25 minutes or so of the gameplay and the story and all the in-depth stuff they put into the visuals, I was absolutely 100% sold on that game. And I knew it was going to be great. So God of War is going to do absolutely just that. So yeah, just be patient. It's coming back this year, apparently. So there's not actually much time left for them to announce and showcase it. So every day that ticks over, we're getting ever so closer. So the next story of the week is with Sucker Punch. So of course, Ghost of Tsushima developers, as I just said, they've announced this week that they have no plans to revisit InFamous or its Sly Cooper franchises at this moment in time. So in a blog post celebrating the studio's 25th anniversary, congratulations Sucker Punch, they have now created and focused on its current project. So they quote, "As we approach 25 years since Sucker Punch first opened, we're proud to look back on the legacy of characters and stories we've created, from Rocket Robot on Wheels to Sly Cooper and InFamous, and most recently Ghost of Tsushima. As our games continue to grow in scale and complexity, they require the full attention of our studio. With our focus on our current project, we have no plans to revisit InFamous or Sly Cooper right now, and no other studio is currently working on projects related to those franchises either. These characters are very special and near and dear to our hearts, so while we'd never say never to reopening those doors down the road, for now there are no InFamous or Sly Cooper games in development." Which is both a good and a sad thing. Like, I'm glad that they've said the door's always open, but as I was saying, Ghost of Tsushima, absolutely fantastic. Am I down for a sequel? 100%. It was one of my favourite games of the last few years. If you've not played Ghost of Tsushima, go check it out. It's beautiful, the story's fantastic, the gameplay is top notch. You will not be disappointed. Can't wait for a sequel. However, I also love the InFamous games, and I'm disappointed to hear that we're not seeing anything anytime soon. It was kind of the original superhero game for me. Now Spider-Man's kind of overshadowed it a little bit. For me, it was the one you could really jump into and just have fun with powers. Did either of you two check out like Second Son or InFamous 1 and 2 beforehand?
Second Son I've played. I haven't played the others, but Second Son, and what I like about it, you say it's like a superhero game, like Spider-Man's overshadowed it. Spider-Man, you're kind of locked with what that character is. InFamous, you have a lot more freedom, I think. So it's kind of is a shame that they're not working on it.
Yeah, you're not beholden to like Marvel Comics legacy or who or what Spider-Man is, or more importantly, like New York City. You can literally go and do anything. And like InFamous Second Son showcased such a great array of like powers and variety. It was so fun to just switch, and every time you got an upgrade, it was a different power. So fun. Rob, you said you played them as well. Have you got a favourite out of the lot, or?
I still love number one because it was one of the first PlayStation 3 titles I played. And it was really kind of like the showcase of what the PlayStation 3 could do at the start of its kind of release. And I just loved it, yeah. It was like, it had the kind of the Paragon and Renegade system, I think it was called.
Yeah, you got to be a good guy, bad guy kind of difficult decision making.
That was really good, but on the flip side, as much as I love all the IPs they've done in the past, I think Sucker Punch have like a real talent for just making new stories, and I'm kind of quite excited to see what's coming kind of in the future from those guys. Like, fair enough, I'd love to see like kind of sequels and things like that, but I have a lot of faith in that company to make new IPs, which I love as well. So.
Yeah, because the way Sony have naturally done it is, if you look at Naughty Dog and look at Guerrilla Games and everything, they've kind of expanded these studios who do fantastic work on their own, and they've grown them to a point where they almost fracture into two studios working within the same umbrella. And they put out, we saw that with Naughty Dog, where they went back between Uncharted and then they flipped to The Last of Us and then back to Uncharted and vice versa. And there's big rumours that Guerrilla, who've done Horizon, they're also working on a different IP in the background with half of their studio. And yeah, Sucker Punch now, they say they're working on their current project, which is inevitably going to be Ghost of Tsushima 2. But I always love looking back at the history and thinking like how they all came from like character mascots. Like these guys had Sly Cooper, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. Naughty Dog had Jak and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot, and then how they all had to like evolve into what is essentially a modern Sony video game exclusive. And it's story driven in nature, third person, action adventure to some degree. And yeah, I'm excited. It's great to know that they're still in the wheelhouse. I do think we'll see games from these IP in the future at some point. But it's kind of ironic, back to what we said about God of War. We're patient, we're waiting for it. But at the same time, I'd snap the hand off if they just give me a new InFamous game tomorrow. If they were we're working on it. It's actually interesting the way that they don't farm their IP out to more internal studios. I always thought Bluepoint were, now they've acquired Bluepoint fully. They did obviously the Dark Souls remaster. They worked on the Uncharted Collection remaster. They've got like a knack, not that type of knack, don't get me confused with that one, for doing this kind of thing. And I would have thought Bluepoint's next project would be take an IP that the other ones don't have the time necessary to work on and do your own thing. Like, don't make a remaster, just take it and run with it and make your own game using the IP. And we're yet to see that yet. Sly Cooper, not so much, because I don't have an affinity. I didn't play those games as a kid. I was the Crash Bandicoot kid, as we said. Richie, have you ever played a Sly Cooper game?
No, I think go back to like Bluepoint. Maybe there's no one working on anything right now, but like Sucker Punch haven't said that they're opposed to anyone else working on them. Maybe it's just one of them. They're waiting for like one developer to just pick up the phone and go, we fancy having a crack at Infamous. Are you guys doing anything? It's like, no. Do you mind if we do? We'll collab on it. Mm-hmm. Like so Sucker Punch can have almost like be like the guys over there can just act as producers. So they're overseeing the project, making sure it's like not straying too far from their vision, while letting like a Bluepoint or someone else, a new studio or something, go for it.
Yeah, it's there's loads of IP like we just sat on. When I think of Insomniac with Spider-Man, like they have the Resistance trilogy, and them games are fantastic as well. Yeah. And we've not had a new Resistance game in nearly 10 years now. And I'd bite someone's hand off for a trilogy remaster of all those 3, or a new entry in it. And yet, yeah, they're busy working on Wolverine, Spider-Man 2. Whatever the Miles Morales follow-up is, and they've just got so much on their plate right now. There's no chance they're doing a Resistance game. But yeah, it's nice to know that they're being clear. Like they're actually coming out and saying, yeah, it's all good. One thing they did confirm, interesting enough, was that infamous Second Son's Core Legacy DLC, which was only included in the Collector's Edition, is going to be released on the PlayStation Store separately. So if you do want that little Infamous kick, and you didn't quite fork out for the Collector's Edition back in the day, I think like March 2015 or whatever it was, you can go get it now. So there's something new, I guess, related to it.
I don't think I played that, so that might be the thing that just pulls me back in for a couple of days. And
it's on the collection. It's about the hit, so if you've got PlayStation Plus Premium, you can claim Second Son right now as well. Troy Baker, again, doing just every video game role there is to possibly play out there in the world. But moving on to our final few stories of the weeks, gentlemen. Nice and quick ones here. Skull and Bones. We reported on it on last week's show, I want to say, about it. It got an ESRB rating. It's rumoured there was gameplay leak. Came out earlier in the year. It's now resurfaced, none other than on the Xbox storefront. So this is kind of probably official without being official. Ubisoft clearly have something earmarked for some big reveal for this title. November the 8th was the date it was locked in for, so it does appear that Skull and Bones is slated to drop this winter, and they're going to show off and within the storefront, we were able to see a few more details regarding the versions that are released. So classic Ubisoft, there's going to be a collector's edition, a premium version, a version that comes with a soundtrack. You get an art book with it. No doubt loads of Ubisoft points online and other random assorted bonuses. But yeah, November 8th. Is that too soon, Richie? Or do we think it's just about damn time this pirate game got out?
Skull and Bones, it's definitely not too soon. It feels about right. If they're going to do a big push for it at Gamescom, then you got a couple of months and it's out. So yeah, November 8th seems absolutely fine for me.
Yeah, it does strike me that we might not see an Assassin's Creed game this year. Usually Ubisoft... I mean, actually, you know what? I lie, because we saw in previous years, Richie, that Ubisoft do not fear shitting all over their own game releases by releasing several at the same time frame. I think we got Valhalla, Watch Dogs, and there's a third one,
Phoenix
Rising, all within like 2 months of each other.
It wasn't even that. It was within a month.
Which was like, talk about cannibalising your own. You work on these titles for 3 or 4 years at a time, spend millions and millions, and then you've got an entire slate of months to put them out at, and you just drop them all within the same time window. Such an odd business choice. Really is. But yeah, Skull and Bones on the horizon. We'll see it eventually. We won't spend any more time talking about it because I feel like I've been spending 7 years talking about it at this point. When it's finally out, we'll probably get into whatever the showcase reveal is from Ubisoft. But yeah, with the Gamescom announcement and then this leak, I think Skull and Bones seems to be Ubisoft's big focus for this winter. So
yeah, let's see
if they pull it off. Moving on, there was an interesting story drop this week. I always laugh at these stories because it's so funny when they do it. PlayStation VR2, we know is coming. We don't know when. It's been spotted out in the wild because a developer posted a picture of it just on his chair in his office where he's clearly working on some kind of PS2 VR project. And you're probably not... I don't know about how NDAs work out there in the wild, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to take photographs of the product you're testing that's in development still and just sharing it online just for the masses to see. But it does raise an interesting point that we haven't heard much about PSVR2. And Rob, I'll throw it over to you this one. Do you think it's in line for this year with the PlayStation 5's been so hard to get hold of now, or do we think it's still a ways off the public release?
It's kind of hard to know what the hardware situation is like internally with PlayStation. Personally, I don't see it this year just because they've kind of had... I know, like, obviously Sony's a big company and things like that, but they've had the complete redevelopment of kind of the PS Plus and PS Now. And I know, like, there's an argument to say that's just merged, that's just like smashed those two services together. But there is a deceptive amount of work that goes into that behind the scenes before things like this happen. Yeah, I just don't see it this year. Again, like VR is, especially PlayStation VR, something I'm not particularly invested in. When I do VR, which I intend to kind of next year anyway, it's going to be on the back of a heavily upgraded kind of PC and things like that. So it'll be nice. I'll see what kind of like the hardware's like, but I'm not kind of getting too sucked into it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about all the things that go on in like fiscal years for just from a business standpoint. It's like how many products do you want to push and market at the same time? Because yeah, if the PlayStation games are, I mean, if we've got God of War to focus on, how much we just said there, how much are they going to go big on that? Do you want to start then messing around with trying to push another product at the same time? Whereas by this Christmas, it's probably going to be the first year they might have stock of PS5s ample enough to sell to meet the demand. So would you risk putting out another £300-400 potential piece of equipment to then, similar to Ubisoft, cannibalise your own audience almost in a way? Because you're not going to... Like, how many people realistically out there in the market for both a PS5 for £500, a PSVR 2 for £400, and then the game... You're talking like upwards of £1,000, and the reality is that people just don't have that kind of money, right?
Yeah, especially this year.
I'm kind of at a point where I'm thinking about is like they're still struggling to get PS5s in people's homes. Why bring out another piece of hardware now when you just don't have that install base for PS5s, or people haven't had the PS5 for very long? And also it gives, if you push it to like holiday next year, it gives another year for games to be developed, so when they do launch it, they can do a big announcement with going, here's a load of cool titles to play in as well. The criticism of VR, for me, is one, I think that it's an expensive peripheral, and I don't think the games, while cool, I don't think they warrant the price of the additional hardware in order to play them. So I think VR games need to get up to the standard of the rest of, like, you need the Ghost of Tsushima, the God of War of VR to come alongside this launch. And by holding off for another year, I think it gives you more titles, potentially better titles, and then you're going to have a larger PlayStation install base, and people have had that extra time since they bought the PlayStation where they might consider it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. I own a PlayStation VR, the first one, and I look, like, as you said, I absolutely enjoy every moment I play with it, but there is a disconnect when I don't just casually just jump into it, because it detaches you from the real world, your surroundings, and there is something to be said about popping a headset on and being closed off from everything for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours at a time. And yeah, you're completely right, Richie. The games aren't there. There's some fantastic games on PSVR, but you just need to look at the top 10 charts to see that it's always the same titles. It's always Beat Saber. There's Moss in there. There's The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, but it's the same games every single month, month in, month out. And they've announced, obviously, Horizon Call of the Mountain, so they are leaning on some of their famous IP to draw it in. But you're right, it is just one title, and if I'm going to be dropping 400 quid on a peripheral, I want more than one game to play that's up there in the top echelons of quality.
I just don't think the gaming industry has figured out what a AAA VR game is yet.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, something like Starfield could do really well in VR. Anything first person, natively first person, has a better chance, I think. Because just the nature of, like, the amount of immersion.
Yeah. It's back to what Rob said about Fallout. It's like, if you can live that RPG life and get drawn into, like, this is the world you want to live in, that's the hook that you need. And yeah, I don't think any game's done. I know there's like Skyrim in VR and stuff, but it wasn't designed as a VR game first and foremost. And the ones
Resident Evil 7, that's a good example, because that was co-developed in VR and not.
But it's not one that you want to live in. It's one that you want to get the fuck out of, because it's so scary. But yeah, I get what you mean. I think it's an interesting world, VR, still, because I totally enjoy the tech. I love it and I embrace it. But I don't think it'll ever be mainstream as I think the developers want it to be.
They need to have a big catalogue of AAA VR games and bring down the cost of the peripherals too high. When you're already forking out £500 for a console, to drop another £400 on a peripheral that gets you access to a small additional catalogue of games, it just... Because I have considered picking up a PSVR before, but I just can't justify the cost.
Yeah, I totally get you, yeah. The library of games certainly needs to get bigger. Just like one of our final stories for the week, if you want a library of massive games, look no further than Atari and their 50th anniversary collection that was announced this week. There's a compilation of the company's history that's coming out with more than 90 playable games dating all the way back to the 1970s. The collection is going to include ultra early favourites all the way up to 90s classics. There's some new games thrown in there for good measure, according to Atari. They're going to combine historical trivia, digital artifacts, new video interviews, playable games in one single experience. There's 50 years of history of the industry in one game. It's basically like a compendium collection game. Like, don't get me wrong, great games for their time. There's a lot of shit in this collection that's just going to be like old games. But I'm sure there's some great ones in there. Centipede, Asteroids. They've got some new ones in there as well. But yeah, Atari still kicking, celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations for all that you've done for the industry. And then pivoting to our final story of the week, kind of in a similar vein, we have out of nowhere, seemingly, Bandai Namco announced Pac-Man World Re-Pac, which I'm disappointed they missed the chance to call it repackaged. Re-Pac seems like a weird addition, but yeah, for anyone
repacked,
why end up?
There's a better pun in there.
Yeah, definitely. So lovely surprise for all you Pac-Man fans out there. Pac-Man World Re-Pac is a remake of the delightful PlayStation 1 3D platformer coming to PS5 and PS4 very soon, launching August 26th this year. It isn't quite your classic arcade affair, as Pac-Man's in 3D. The hero, just like Mario before him, is in a three-dimensional platforming adventure world where he needs to rescue other members of the Pac family. Of course, those famous characters of the Pac-Man family. as he goes jumping, killing nasty ghosts, collecting pellets, baddies to stomp, bosses to conquer, and different type of gameplay mixed in, with also an element of kart racing in there too. So, did either of you play this on? I don't even know this was a thing. Like in my mind, Pac-Man has always been 2D, aside from maybe the cartoon animated shows he had.
I think I was aware of it from when Pac-Man came to Smash. So it's like, because it feels wrong. Like Pac-Man being a 3D character with arms and stuff, it's just not right. I mean, it could be a fun game, to be honest. It does look like your classic fun puzzle platformer. It's like, it reminds me kind of a bit of like something like a Crash Bandicoot, actually.
Yeah. It's those
in
old
some
mascots.
ways. Yeah, you know where you got the like, it's mainly a platformer, but we're going to throw a few little games. We're going to have a racing level, and we're going to have a piloting level.
Just mix it up with vehicles and craziness. But yeah, PlayStation 1 game remade, just yet another one. So not long to wait.
Namco, it's just you can't keep track of what they're going to do week from week. They're just
crazy. They're absolutely crazy. I mean, they change the logo every few months as well. Me and Richie discussed that on our other shows. They just do what they want. And usually they give us a copyright strike for showing the video trailer footage off. So people will have either just seen the trailer or they'll have seen you know what? I'll put, if the trailer bans the video for copyright, I'll put one of those pictures of ugly Pac-Man up. Richie, have you seen real life Pac-Man, Rob? We've discussed this. If you Google real life Pac-Man, it's the stuff of nightmares. You actually need a live reaction for that now.
Was it guilt I did that?
First look.
Yeah, it was something we discussed it on a previous Pac-Man one. It literally looks like a horror lemon with like gums and teeth, and it's concerning stuff.
Yeah, I don't like that in the slightest. Oh god, it's playing.
It's not good.
Yeah, there's real like it's
kill it with fire.
Kill it with fire, indeed. But everyone, that brings us to an end for episode 3 of Talking the PS. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, watched along, and listened on podcast services. Don't forget to give the video a like if you haven't done so already, and subscribe and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content we bring you here at Helix Cloud Games. Just like this very show, just like our weekly Sounds of Stadia podcast, the weekly podcast where we round up all the Stadia and cloud gaming news right here on the channel. We also have our live streams that go up. These two gentlemen went and played Wreckfest last week. We'll be playing some more games with you, the wonderful community, this very week as well. So stay tuned to our socials to find out what that is and when that goes live. And also shout out to our Helix heroes who support the channel that extra bit further, and they get our episode of CloudQuest right now available to download and watch. If you haven't subscribed, you can do. Richie, remind the folks of what we discussed on CloudQuest this week one last time.
We were talking about Tencent and their cloud gaming platform, and will they bring it to the West?
That's right, the Chinese conglomerate, mega rich folks who are buying shares up in every company you love so dear. We go and talk about their enter into the gaming world of cloud. But that's been it. Thank you very much to my lovely two hosts who joined us this week as well. Rob, thank you very much. Richie,
thank you.
You don't have socials to plug yet, do you?
No.
Richie, where can people find you?
At RichieC89.
RichieC89. You can find me at CyberChris2077. If you want some trophy hunting action, don't forget to check out our other co-host, Jeff, at Platinum Jangus, both on YouTube and on Twitter as well. He's out there rounding up all those trophies every day, every hour almost, it seems. And he'll be back on the show, no doubt, once we get some scheduling arranged. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far this week. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
We've been Helix Cloud Games talking the PS. Thanks for watching, folks, and remember, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye.